In this video, we're going to talk about where, as a vegetarian or a vegan, you can get your essential fats and your calcium.
The Epic Life TV, your home for mastery of habits which create your epic life and business.
Hey, what's up, Epic Lifer? I'm Mr. O, and welcome to The Only Life Worth Living, the Epic Life TV. If it's your first time here, then you definitely want to check out our trailer and find out what the Epic Life is all about. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Where do you, as a vegetarian or a vegan, get your calcium or your essential fats? In the video previous to this one, we talked about where you can get your proteins as a vegan or a vegetarian. So you want to be sure to check that out if you haven't seen that already. And if you are indeed new to this channel and this is the first time you're seeing us, we're actually going through what we call an Epic Life Optimum series, where we're covering the 8 laws of health. And those are the NEWSTART principles, which is an acronym for nutrition, exercise, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trust in God. So let's get straight into it, because we're going to start off with fats, okay? And if you stay to the end of this video, that's when we're going to be talking about calcium. So we hear about all these fats, we hear about omega-3s, right? That's the most common one, but you've also heard about omega-6, omega-9. What does that even mean? Why do we need it, and how does the body actually use it? What fats are good and what fats are bad? And most importantly, where do you actually get it? Okay, so let's look at omega-3. Now, omega-3, you might have seen 3 letters next to it when you're buying a supplement, for example, saying EFA. And what that stands for is essential fatty acid. And what essential means quite simply is this. It means that the body, the human body, cannot make it. So what you have to do is actually introduce it into the body from an external source. Now, we're told that fish is the best source of omega-3. So understandably, as a vegetarian or even a vegan, you might think, okay, so where am I supposed to get it? Yet the truth is that no creature, and I mean no creature, has the ability to produce omega-3. Only plants can. So why is it that fish are so high then in omega-3? It's because they eat the algae that are high in omega-3. So the truth is that you can get omega-3 from sources that are far superior to fish. And the reason I say it's superior is because 1, you're getting it firsthand, and 2nd, you don't get any of the mercury that comes with it. So where can you in fact get omega-3s from? Well, 1 is the flaxseed or linseed, whichever you want to call it, and the 2nd is chia seed, which is the 2nd highest source of omega-3. In fact, even chia seeds are manifold, and I mean manifold, more rich in omega-3s than even salmon. So now we know where to get omega-3. What does it actually do in the body, and why do we need it? Well, omega-3 is an 18-chain fatty acid, okay? Made up of carbon and hydrogen atoms, and it's in a long chain, right? You see the little C's there in the chain? Those are carbon atoms, and the ones you see on top are hydrogen atoms, right? Now there are 19, listen to this number, 19 trillion of those molecules, right, in 1 drop of oil. So what does omega-3 actually mean, okay? Well, the 3 means that every 3 carbon atoms that you see along this chain here, there's what you call a double bond. So instead of 1 link, there are 2 links, okay? And whenever you get a double bond, the hydrogen atoms up top go, all right? They disappear. And the hydrogen atoms beneath develop an electromagnetic field between them, all right? So they repel each other and it causes a kink in the chain, all right? So in omega-3, there are 3 double bonds. So there's 3 kinks in this chain, which means it's a very fluid oil. So when it gets in the body and you eat this oil, it actually thins the blood. Now, more about omega-3. Omega-3 is called a polyunsaturated acid, okay? And what that means is this. Poly means many, right? So it means that there's more than 1 double bond. And unsaturated, if you think about business, when you say a marketplace is saturated, it means it's full up. And so unsaturated means that there are spots available left on this long chain, right? In fact, there are 3 empty spots, hence why it's also called omega-3. Now, the thing with the double bonds is they are heat and light sensitive, okay? So what that enables you to do is your body can manage your heat and regulate your temperatures better. And the light sensitivity also means that you can absorb vitamin D better. And it also happens to be a magnet to oxygen. And you know, cancer can't live in the presence of oxygen, so it's really good to have your omega-3s. And omega-3s are also anti-inflammatory. So as I said, when you eat this oil, it thins the blood and it spreads really nicely on the skin as well. And you get beautiful, nice, supple skin. And the body also uses it for cell membrane function and for repair as well. Now, the double bonds in the body create an electromagnetic field. And what that does is it gives sparks of electricity to every cell in the body. If you haven't seen my video on acid and alkaline balance, it's also linked in the description below. You want to take a look at that because I go into a bit more detail about how electrons in the body actually give you this energy, right? And this is especially beneficial to the nervous system and for brain function as well. So that's omega-3s. What about omega-6? Okay, where do you get omega-6? Well, you can get omega-6 from sunflower, okay? Now, omega-6 is also a long chain. It's an 18 chain fatty acid. And the number 6 shows where the double bond actually shows up in the chain. You count 6 bonds across and then you have a double bond, and then another 6 and then you have another double bond. So in omega-6, there are 2 double bonds in the chain. So there's 2 kinks in the chain. And so this type of oil isn't as thin as omega-3, but it's still thin. Now, omega-6 is also polyunsaturated because it has more than one. Poly means many. It means that there's more than one double bond, and it's unsaturated because there are 2 empty spots still available. Now, what about omega-9? What is that? Well, listening to what you previously listened to, you should be getting the gist by now of how it runs, okay? So omega-9s, by the way, can be found in almond oil and olive oil, all right? Now, omega-9 is also a 18 chain fatty acid. And the 9 shows where the double bond appears in the actual chain. So if you count 9 carbon atoms across, then you'll find where the double bond would be in the chain. And in this case, it has 1 double bond. So there's just 1 kink in the chain. And as you know, this is a thicker oil. So this type of oil is called a monounsaturated fatty acid because mono means 1, so it has 1 double bond, and it's unsaturated because there is still 1 spot available on this acid chain. Now, just something to note here. Olive oil, omega-9s, turn toxic with heat. When you heat them up, it just turns bad, all right? You do not want to be heating or frying or cooking with olive oil, all right? It's not good. So if you're going to have olive oil, it's better that you put it on salads and things like that. Don't heat it up, okay? You just don't want to be doing that. And if you're going to have olive oil, make sure it's cold pressed, because what you'll find is a lot of companies, they'll sort of process it with a bit of heat and then it destroys those double bonds, and you don't want that. What you want is cold pressed olive oil, extra virgin cold pressed olive oil. So make sure you look for that when you go shopping in the stores. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about coconut oil, okay? Because coconut oil is a little bit different to the other oils that we previously discussed. It has a shorter chain, okay? It's not an 18 chain fatty acid. In fact, there are no double bonds in coconut. So all the hydrogen spots are actually full. And at room temperature, if you've got some at home, then you'll know that it's actually a solid fat, okay? And incidentally, it's called a saturated fat because there are no spots available for hydrogen atoms that are free. So it's a saturated molecule. So this is the most stable oil out of all of the oils. And it's actually great when it's exposed to heat. It's the safest to actually cook with, and it also tastes pretty good too. Now, sometimes people may have questions, well, what about margarine, okay? So here's the thing, you've got to look at how is margarine actually made. It's made by taking oil, so olive oil or say flaxseed oil, and it's heated. And if you remember, double bonds are sensitive. So when you heat it, it loses its double bonds. And then what happens is it gets saturated with those hydrogen ions. So it's a solid now. And so what that means is now you can actually spread it. Here's the thing with margarine. Margarine is not known by nature. It's not found anywhere in nature, okay? That molecule chain is unrecognizable. In fact, it's similar in chemical molecular structure to plastic. Now, would you eat plastic? I don't think so. It's toxic. And the body just doesn't know what to do with it. It's like, oh, what do we do with this? Right? And so what it tries to do is it tries to eliminate it by pushing it out towards the skin. And unfortunately, that's how a lot of people end up with skin cancer. So please, if you're having margarine, stop that right now. Don't even go to finish the margarine you've got in your fridge. Just throw it out. Just get rid of it. Seriously. The only safe way to get oil into a solid is to put it in the freezer, okay? Any heat is gonna mess it up, unless it's coconut oil, because that's already saturated, okay? And that's natural. So if you put it in the freezer, then you can actually go and spread it on your toast. Or if you prefer, if you still want fatty acids, you know what you can use? Get some crushed avocado, just crush that up and then spread it on there. Tastes amazing. Or you can also get some hummus and spread it on there too. Woo! That's good, man. So you might have the question, Mr. O, what is the best oil? If you could tell me about the one oil that's the oil of all oils, the oil to be consumed, what oil would that be? Well, the answer is, what do you need it for? Because the body actually needs them all for different things. You know, it's kind of like asking, you know, when you were children and you played these games like, well, if you had to lose your leg or your arm, which would you prefer? You know, if you had to lose your hearing or your sight, which would you prefer? You know, those kind of questions. Well, that's basically what you're asking when you're saying, well, which oil is the best? You need them all, okay? You wouldn't ask the heart to do the things that the hands can do, all right? You wouldn't ask the hands to do what the heart can do. You wouldn't ask the brain to do what the eyes do. You wouldn't ask your feet to think, all right? You wouldn't ask your brain to walk. Okay, they have different functions and they need to be allocated to their specific jobs. So in other words, what I'm saying is you need all these different oils if you want your body to function properly. So omega-3s, as I mentioned before, are very good for cell membrane function and also for repair as well of the cells. So how does a body actually use omega-3? Well, what it does is this. Omega-3 is made up of an acid called ALA, and I forget the actual name for it, but it's ALA, okay? And that has 3 double bonds. Now, the body breaks that down and turns it into EPA, which has 5 double bonds. And then the body breaks it down further than that to something called DHA, which is 6 double bonds. Now, you might be thinking, DHA, I've heard of that before. You're right. What you've seen is when you buy those fish omega oils, all right, they might say, oh, it's DHA oil, and they say that that's superior to normal omega-3s. And what they mean is this, all right, the body, just as your body broke down the ALA, turned it into EPA, and turned it into DHA, well, the fish's bodies do exactly the same thing. So they extract the DHA from the fish and they basically put that together and package it up and then give it to you and say, look, this is a superior form. It's already broken down. Your body can just take it in much faster, right? That's basically why they say it's superior. However, the problem is as I've mentioned before, is that double bonds are heat sensitive. They are light sensitive. They are oxygen sensitive. Okay? Now you mean to tell me, and basically if they're exposed to any of these things, what happens is they are destroyed, okay? And they're of no use to anybody. Okay? So you tell me now, are you seriously trying to tell me that when they extract this DHA from the fish, okay, and they put it through the processing to go into bottles or those little capsules or what have you, you're trying to tell me that it didn't get exposed to light, that it didn't get exposed to heat, okay? The oxygen didn't get to it. Are you seriously trying to tell me that? And then by the time it makes it over to your store, okay, it might be sitting on a shelf somewhere where the light is exposed to it in your health store, right? So the point is this, by the time you get it, how good is it for you? That's what needs to be questioned here, right? Plus on top of that, the fish that are actually the highest in DHA are also the highest in mercury, okay? In fact, it's very difficult nowadays to find any fish in any waters that are not contaminated with mercury. And it is for that reason that I personally believe it's both easier and safer to get omega-3 from flax seeds, linseeds, and chia seeds, where it's still in its raw form and can be processed by the body as it needs it for itself, right? Now, let's talk a little bit about coconut oil. Now, coconut oil, man, that's something really special. Besides the point that it actually tastes really good and that it's actually pretty good to cook with. The good thing about coconut oil is actually broken down by lingual lipase, all right? And that's basically an enzyme that's inside your mouth, okay? So it actually starts breaking down coconut oil in your mouth before it gets digested into the stomach, right? So it's actually already breaking down from that point. And the good thing about that is it's burnt as a fuel faster than any other oil. So if you're looking to like lose weight and build muscle, it's actually a really good source of fuel that you'll need. And the other good thing about coconut is it's 40% antifungal. Now, there's a man by the name of Bruce Fife. He's a doctor actually, Dr. Bruce Fife, and he wrote a book called Coconut Cures. He also wrote a book called Stop Autism Now, and he also wrote another book called Stop Alzheimer's Now. He's written other books as well to do with coconut oil. Fascinating work, okay? And these are books that are talking about neurodegeneration and neuroinflammation, okay? Now, neuro has to do with the brain, of course, okay? Now, Dr. Bruce Fife uses coconut oil to cure people, okay? Because coconut oil has ketones, and ketones are neuroprotective and they are neurohealers. And so what he has people do is start off with like a teaspoon and take a teaspoon of coconut oil 3 times a day and work your way up to a dessert spoon or even a tablespoon, okay? And what that does is it creates an excess of oil that's actually stored by the liver, and it converts it into these ketones. And these ketones are neuroprotectors and neuroinflammatory and neurohealers. So if you get a chance, take a look into Dr. Bruce Fife's work. He has some amazing stories of people that have turned around Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, dementia. You can use coconut oil to prevent brain damage and even turn it around and have healing take place. Coconut oil is amazing stuff. Okay, so as promised, I said to you that I would tell you about where you can get calcium as a vegan or vegetarian, all right? So I do get this question sometimes, and that is, where do you get calcium if you aren't having dairy products? Well, this is a good question. So let's take a glass of milk, for example, okay? Let's just imagine I've got one in my hand right now. Now, in a glass of milk, you have protein and you have calcium, okay? Amongst some other things, some other unmentionables. We won't go into that right now, okay? But that protein is a wasteful protein, and what I mean by that is only 58% of it is burnt and used as fuel. Now, what happens to the other 42%? Well, it leaves in the body a sulfur residue, okay, which is very acidic and it's toxic. So with all this toxicity of acid in your blood, okay, have a look at the acid alkaline balance for more details on that on the video in the link in the description, okay? Basically, what the body now has to do is it has to neutralize it, okay? Because your body needs to be on a pH of 7.36, okay? So the body's like, we're acidic here, we've got to neutralize it. So what does it do? It finds the most alkaline mineral that it can find, which happens to be calcium. Well, where do we get calcium from? Well, it was in the milk. So the sulfur has to be alkalized, right? It has to be neutralized. So the funny thing is that whatever calcium is actually left in the milk gets used to burn up, or neutralize rather, this sulfur acid that is in the milk. It's all used to deal with the sulfur, okay? And if that isn't enough, it actually goes, your body goes to the bones to get more calcium, all right? So it's no wonder that the countries that are the highest consumers of dairy happen to have the highest rates of osteoporosis. So the question isn't really, where do you as a vegan get your calcium? The question is if you're having dairy, where are you getting your calcium? Because you're not getting it from the milk in a way that can actually be used by your body, all right? It's just used to neutralize what was already there. It's not actually really being deposited onto the bones. It's actually taking it away from the bones. So where do we get calcium from? Well, we get it from the same place that one of the biggest boned creatures on the planet gets it from. The elephant, okay? You think about an elephant, how big they are. I mean, just the leg bone itself is bigger than me, right? So that's a lot of calcium. Well, where does he get all the calcium that he needs? Okay, because they're not sitting there drinking cow's milk for that calcium. So where are they getting it from? They're getting it from their greens. That's what you see elephants eating, right? So you also can get it from your greens. Now you can also get it from sesame seeds. Sesame seeds are really high in calcium. Chickpeas also are very high in calcium, and you don't get all the other sulfur residue and stuff that comes with it, okay? Now, incidentally, in hummus, which I mentioned earlier, you can get both chickpeas and sesame seeds in the same concoction, okay? Because they're both in the actual hummus. Also, tahini. Oh man, if you haven't had some tahini, woo! Tahini is good, man. I remember my wife, it was like, was it last year or 2 years ago? I still remember it. This is how good it tasted. She made this butternut squash salad, okay? And then she topped it up with some pine nuts and some tahini. Oh, that was so good. She needs to make that again. Yeah, I'm going to talk to her about that. Sorry, that's my dinner plans. Anyway, probably won't happen now because we're going off to Rome soon. Hopefully I'll be documenting some of that. I've said it now, so now I actually have to deliver. So I'm probably going to have to wait till Rome is over for her to make that one again, because I don't even know the recipe. I'd like to make it myself, actually. But these are some really tasty ways to get a lot of calcium into the body. You can also find calcium in almonds. You can get it in figs. You can get it in hemp seeds. You can get it in kale. You can get it in dates. You can get it in black currants. You can get it in soybeans, okay? Edamame beans. I mean, I've named so many more options than just milk, okay? So there's no excuses. There's plenty of places you can get lots of good calcium. Now, the thing is that sometimes people are still calcium deficient even though they're having those things, and there could be many different reasons for that, one of which could be they're not getting enough vitamin D. As you would have seen in my video that I made on sunlight, if you haven't seen that, go down to the link in the description and you'll actually see that there is a link there for that video. And I talk about how vitamin D is actually converted into calcium. And I talk about how vitamin D is a gateway for calcium to actually get into the bones. The calcium can't get in there without that vitamin D, so it's actually needed. So maybe you're not getting enough sunlight and that's why you're calcium deficient, because you're vitamin D deficient, so you can't get the calcium to actually be used by your body, okay? Or it could also be things that leach calcium from your body. So that could be caffeine. Goodness me, if you're having caffeine, cut that out. And sugar as well. Sugar is one of those things that leaches calcium. It could be that you're just having too much of these things. So you've got to do some investigating to find out what those things are. All right, so that's the end of this video. I don't want it to get any longer. So we're almost at the end of the Epic Life Optimum series. I hope you've enjoyed watching it as much as I have enjoyed making it for you. So we're actually coming really close to the end now. I think we've got 1 or 2 more to go. We've got rest, which is part of the 8 laws of health, okay, the NEWSTART principles. We've got rest and trust in God left to go. So if you're not subscribed already, please do, so you'll get the notifications. If you turn on that little bell, if you click that bell, it will tell you, you'll get a pop-up on your phone or your iPad or whatever you're using to watch these videos with. You'll get a notification of when that video is actually ready for you. And if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who you think actually really needs to see this video. All right, so that's it from me. I'm Mr. O, and I'm getting out of here. And I just have to say, if you are gonna live on this planet, live the epic life. And remember, you are just one habit away. I'll see you next time, next Tuesday.